This is The Speaking Show. I'm David Newman, and you're tuned in to the #1 podcast for speakers, consultants, and experts who want to speak more profitably. Welcome to another episode. You are in for a real treat today. I've got Meny Hoffman from PTX Group. And Meny is an expert at branding and marketing. He runs this fabulous agency. We're going to find out all the crazy stuff that we're doing wrong with branding and marketing and positioning our own companies, and a little bit of behind the scenes of how Meny runs his empire as well. Welcome, my friend.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the PTX Group. How did that evolve, and maybe just paint a picture of the professional journey that brought you to what you're doing today? Then we'll use that as the jumping off point for the rest of our chat.
Sure. So I was the kid with the lemonade stand when I was, young, 7, 8 years old. And as I was growing older, I started as a hobby. I started drawing. I started creating stuff. And just, when my siblings were trying to play a card game on the computer, I was trying to create my first business card. And actually, my first business card I created when I was 13 and a half years old. I still have it. And I show it sometimes for new employees because I felt that I want to create. That's the fire within yourself that you want to create. And as I was growing older and I wanted to see where could I use my skill set to build something as a business, I was looking for something. What could I do that I'm not just trading dollars for dollars? So let's say I create a bottle of milk and I'm selling a milk. What could I create? If I create this to someone else, that will continue to make money for that person. That's where we started off on the design work. And as the market is shifting, we started doing, okay, design is different than branding. Branding is different than marketing. Marketing is different than positioning. And, 18 years later, we have a team of over 35 people in-house and then a lot of freelancers that work with us. But we help growing businesses flourish. We have 4 divisions within our company, and our clients come to us and say, either they'll look for individual services or they'll say, this is where we are, this is where we need to go. And my job is to be able to bring people together within our organization to say, let's strategize. What is the challenge that we have and how can we get that person to the next level?
Wow. So many things I have to ask you about that. But let's start with the division of labor, so to speak, between what's the job of branding, what's the job of marketing, what's the job of positioning, what's the job of advertising. When a client comes to you, and I'm sure this happens a lot, and they say, Meny, we need an ad campaign, or Meny, we want to redo our entire website. You're looking at the entire holistic ecosystem around their market-facing assets. And I'm sure there are times where you say, no. You don't need an ad campaign. We need to revisit everything that you're doing. So it's a consultant's dilemma, because the problem they come to you with is often not the first or the real problem. How do you break down to a client when they have to refresh their brand, when they have to refresh their marketing, when they have to refresh their positioning or packaging or all these other things that you do across the different divisions of the firm?
Yeah, so this is a great question. And I actually love that this is how we transitioned into this conversation, because I like to answer this question. And the following is most of the time something that I think the society needs to be better at, which is most people think I'll throw money at it and that problem will be solved, whatever the problem is. Most of the time, it's related to my business is not growing enough. Let me throw some money on marketing and all of a sudden it will grow faster. So the problem with that is, that's usually the beginning of a conversation. When you reach out to an agency, you reach out to a consultant, you reach out to a marketing firm, whatever it is. What I like to do at that meeting, and that's always my first question. I hear the person out. Obviously, that's the first thing you need to do. And then I say, what tempted you to pick up the phone and call me? What tempted you to go to our website and actually submit that form? And usually that will be the first place where the person will start saying things that it didn't say in the first part of the conversation. Well, I just had my best salesperson leave the company. Or there's a new competition in the market and I feel that I'm facing that fear that they're going to take away my market share. When the person starts opening up and they start saying, wait a minute, maybe there's a better way. Or maybe it's not just a marketing campaign and so on and so forth. And I have this all the time where people will sometimes send away the person after to say, you know what, You got to fix that before we speak marketing, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of boxes of brochures in your warehouse.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on. Now, true confession time. People listening who know me a little bit or have read my first book, which is the Do It Marketing book. I have a section in there, Meny, that's called Branding is BS. I do. It's true. And the reason for that is because so many people, including some quote unquote branding consultants, get this whole branding thing wrong. And I know you are one of the few people who really understand what branding is and what branding means and what branding does. Let's unpack that for people, because a
Yeah.
lot of people say, oh, the brand is my logo, the
Mhm.
brand is my color palette, the brand is my tagline. And those things might be the result of your brand, but that's not your brand. Getting a new logo, getting a new, color palette for your website. Oh, we rebranded recently, right?
Mhm.
Terrible, terrible, craziness lies that way. Let's take us from square zero. What is a brand? How do you assess your own brand if you can? And then how does a smart company like yours help your clients with this branding adventure?
Great question. First of all, just because you wrote in the book about this topic, I want to start with saying there is this misconception out there, or confusion out there, is some of the us as agency owners are at fault. And the reason is a lot of agency owners are developed through freelance designers that are very creative, and they might be a great designer, all of a sudden they're a branding agency, or they want to be a branding agency, but they never built their own business. In our agency, just to take care of that issue, is we have business people. I myself am a business person, meaning to say I've never designed a logo in my life. Okay. The reason is because it has to start objectively. What is the objective we were trying to accomplish over here? Now, to answer directly your question on branding is not your nice packaging. Branding is not your logo. It's way deeper than that, which is a brand has to have a DNA. Just like a person has a personality, your brand has to have a personality. And that's the positioning. How do you want to be seen in the marketplace, which automatically will basically be a magnet to the people that are your clients, potential clients, which means is every brand has to not only have the positioning, together with that, you need to know, so what's my client persona that I want to attract to? And the example I love to use a lot, which is Starbucks. So Starbucks is a brand, and ultimately what they sell is a cup of coffee. Okay. But their positioning of the brand is we want to give you an experience. Now, down the block, you have Dunkin' Donuts, which they also sell coffee, sometimes even more than Starbucks. However, the positioning is all about the convenience of buying a coffee. Now, you could see selling the same product at the end result. Obviously, both have to deliver what they promise you to deliver. But when you have a brand DNA, which means experience or convenient, every action in the company has to match up to your positioning. Now, will Starbucks take money from every other person that walks into the store? Yes. But when they dictate which products, what pricing, how do they market, who do they market to, what do they do in their store to enhance the experience, it has to match up to that. Versus Dunkin' Donuts says, if I'm a truck driver, I just hop off the truck. It needs to be as easy and as quick for me to get back on my truck. Don't ask me for my name to write on my cup. Just let me take the coffee myself and let me walk out of the store. So when people look at branding, it's also a commitment, because whatever the positioning of your brand is, now you have to say, we're going to abide by it. We're going to make decisions by it. We're going to tell everybody in our organization to live by it.
Yeah, wow, very, very insightful. And it does have tentacles into everything that we do in our
Mm-hmm.
business. And I
Yep.
love that you say it's a commitment, because, companies, and even small companies, big companies sometimes, when they go off in these different directions, and for a big company, it might be a few years. For a small company, it might be every few months.
Mm-hmm.
We risk confusing the marketplace, right? We're changing the logo, we're changing the brand, we're changing the tagline, we're changing the positioning. And if you look at the really big brands, even though they come out with constantly new products and services and programs, like you're saying, the DNA is always recognizable.
And
And
the reason why I also said the word commitment is sometimes larger organizations have their own internal marketing team. So sometimes those positionings come from within, which there's a certain level of commitment right there and then. But sometimes when you hire an outside agency and all of a sudden they're building the brand for you, you have to ask yourself, are we ready to take this on? So that's where the commitment is really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, the more people that are involved, the more the direction has to be clear and it
Mhm.
has to be stuck to every single day, every single decision, every
Yep.
single month, every single quarter. Hey, good looking. Are you currently getting paid to speak? Would you like to ramp that up? We can help. Book a confidential speaker strategy call with our team at doitmarketing.com/call, and let's see what we might do together. The call is free, but the results may be priceless. I think some people might have a fear, some clients of any size. They come to an agency like yours, they see, oh my gosh, they do branding, they do advertising, they do online, offline. I don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Is Meny going to make me revisit everything? Because some of the things are working okay. Are they going to make me totally start from square zero? And how do you integrate some of this new work without making them start from scratch and rebuild everything from the ground up, which is probably their biggest fear?
Great question. And the reason why we have those different services is for that particular to conquer this notion, which is when you're an agency only focusing on branding and you're sitting across the desk with a potential client, you're seeing a new brand or a rebrand. The reason why we added all these services is because you know what, this person has a challenge, maybe we could quickly fix it with just rolling out something, a test campaign prior to rebranding and stuff like that. So that's the quick answer to your question, which is no, everything has to be led objectively. I stress this so many times. My team knows this. And whenever I speak publicly, I speak about it. Every designer has to look at objectively. What are we trying to achieve over here? Because the end of the day, logos will be a matter of opinion. I like blue, this person likes purple, and so on and so forth. So if it's addressed objectively, you constantly have something to look back. Is this solving our objective? So if we could achieve that objective with bits and pieces or diving into a quick fix or a quick campaign, then be it. But if we're looking, this person says, you know what, I really have to go into different markets and whatever they have is just not appealing to that market. Yes, we will tell that person, we got to fix this or we got to prepare you for that market. So that would be always the reason. Now, another point that I want to mention, because you said the word integrated marketing. And this is something, yeah, obviously, with the last few years, it's been used a lot. But the real reason is that you sometimes could see agencies, they're so stuck in what they do, they're not realizing that we could accomplish that with something digital that we could test in A/B split testing. And it's not an ad campaign you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and waiting months to see results. So, as an agency owner, you got to be at the forefront of what's out there. You got to be at the forefront to see what's working and what's not working. What are people speaking about digital? What are people speaking about Facebook? What is lifecycle marketing? What is digital email marketing campaigns? How is that done properly? What are the forefront as far as applications of testing? Because if you don't, you're doing a disservice to yourself as an agency because at one point you're going to become stale, but way more disservice for the client that's walking in and trusting you with growing their business.
I want to also ask you about the integration of these four different areas. And just in case people are not looking at the website, which is ptexgroup.com, the four areas that we've been talking about, the four divisions of the agency, branding and marketing is one, printing and design is the second one. And that all makes sense, of course. Web and digital, as you just said, that makes sense. But then at some point, people go, whoa, hang on, wait a second. You also have a call center. Like I could have my, phone, inbound, outbound, whatever it is. So you really help them run their business. Talk about how that came to be or what the demand was or where the opportunity was to add, because that's a very intimate service, right? So you are really getting into your client's business and the client is really trusting you with a central part of their business. How did that come about? And what was the initial opportunity there that had you jump in?
Yeah. So basically, it evolved from when we started, but it started off a very interesting story that I like to share, which is I was sitting in my office and I had a computer technician come fix my computer. And he was underneath my desk fixing my computer and his phone rang. And he picked up the phone and I asked him, what are you doing over here? You can't even help that customer. And he told me, well, that if I don't pick up the phone, ultimately they'll call the next person. So that was an aha moment. Is he said the words that he used was they're seeing my ad in the yellow pages at that time, and if I'm not picking up the phone, they're calling the next competition. But the real aha moment for us for that service was a few days later. We actually were working on a campaign, which was a brochure for an interior designer. And just to make a long story short, this was somebody that manufactures furniture for interior designers. And he was designing furniture for offices. And obviously, with the last couple of years where imports is all over the place, you could buy beautiful furniture from Canada, from other places, and obviously even in big box retailers, his business was declining. And he came to us and somebody actually suggested he should design a brochure to the interior design, all of those interior designers to tell them why he's special. And even if they have choices somewhere else, he will dedicate himself, do it according to their style, work with them, and create really exotic furniture. And then we finished that brochure, and I called the 800 number on the back of the brochure. As I was dialing the 800 number, his wife picks up and says, hello, hello, hello. And after a few seconds, I lost it. And then a few minutes later, I called the husband on the cell phone. I say, trying to reach your wife. She said, oh, she's in the train station. It got cut off. I tell him, wait a minute. You're sending out brochures to a busy interior designers, and they'll be calling that number, and they'll get your wife in the train station. They're not calling you again. That's first impression. And then he says, what should I do? I'm not going to have somebody sitting in the office waiting for that phone call. And then I said, I had this with this, computer programmer. Maybe we take one of our secretaries just to help out because I wanted the marketing to be effective. And that's where this actually started, which now we have so many campaigns that we come up with a strategy. And the customer will say, but I won't be able to handle inbound of those strategy. A lot of interest, will peak, and then we could now support that. So we could support a lot of our marketing initiatives when there's seasonal campaigns, where it's just one-off campaigns, or where it's creative campaigns that you don't want to clog up your customer service. We could qualify those leads. The calls could come in and we could do that. So I love sharing the story because so many people will spend on marketing, don't have the back end support to do it. So even if you don't use a call center like ours, just make sure that you're prepared, even in your own company. Make sure your people know even. Sometimes I love hearing this where your own people don't even know these ads went out. And people are starting to call and asking questions about the offer they're seeing online or say, which offer? Send me a screenshot. You know what I mean? And then you're calling the marketing agency, hey, my campaign is not resulting in sales.
That is such a great story. It also reminds me of a mantra that I sometimes share with clients and audiences, which is you've got a core business, you've got people that love what you do. So many in your case, they love the branding, they love the marketing, they love the print work, they love the digital. And you're looking at the whole client and you're saying, okay, what else do these same people need? What else do these same people want? Or in some cases, where else will they go to buy this other thing and probably be disappointed or let down, or it won't be the way that we would like them to do it? So you bring that function in house. So you're basically building a portfolio of services, same buyers, same problem, but you're helping them end to end with actually getting to the outcome, which is more leads, better prospects, bigger sales.
Yeah, beautiful. But I want to add that sometimes people say this, are you not the jack of all trades? Or maybe we're stretching ourselves too thin. You have to do it in the right time and the right way, which means you have to be prepared in your agency to say, okay, we could undertake something else. Second of all, the way we do it is think about Whole Foods. Okay, once upon a time, you wanted a great produce, you went to the fruit truck or to the market. You wanted meat, you went to the meat market. You wanted a grocery store, you went to the grocery. And then came Whole Foods, which said we could bring the customer experience, we could bring it all together, but yet the client will have a great customer experience. How do they achieve that? The person doing the produce in Whole Foods is an expert in produce. He couldn't care less about the grocery stuff. Okay, and so on and so forth with the different services they offer within one, but the customer is getting that integrated experience. We've adopted the same thing over here. You speak to the manager of the call center, all he does all day long is What's our abandon rate of picking up phones? At which ring are we picking up the phones? How many times are we putting customers on hold? However, he's brought in to conversations as we're planning a marketing campaign. So the customer is not getting the same person taking care of the strategy for the branding and then also picking up their phones or also doing strategy for digital. The same with digital. People think, oh, I'm a graphic designer. I could also do a website. I could also code a website. Absolutely not. UI, UX is so important on a website today, mobile, responsiveness, and so on and so forth. We want to have experts on that. So our creative team, we finish a brand, we'll hand it off to our web team. They'll start from scratch. What is the objective of the website? What is the objective of the UI, the UX? Who is coming to the website? It might be your clients. It might be your partners. It might be your vendors. It might be so many different people. We want to make sure we speak to all of them and they have a proper user experience to get to the final result.
So I love what you said about the timing, about making sure you do this at the right time. And of course, having the specialists on board who are going to execute and implement just that specialty that's within their realm of expertise. When we're just launching this, how do we know? Is it a chicken or the egg type of situation? Because you want to do it right. Do we start by hiring one specialist first and seeing where it goes? Or can we do a little bit of cross training until we get a certain volume and then we hire the specialist, and in your case, the specialist teams?
Yeah. So my advice, obviously, every journey of every company is different. And in hindsight, if I look back, maybe certain things I would do differently. But if you ask me specifically, somebody listening to this, thinking about what should they do, I would say start off small, but not as a niche, but start off a little bit generalist, because the market will tell you what you're good at, where should you expand. So, which means is start off something that, yes, I could do this, I could do that, because nothing will be as good as being in the market. No education will be as good. You could read up blogs, listen to podcasts, you could read books, whatever it is. Nothing will give you as real life experience. What is the market needing? What are the clients telling you? And ask them. People forget, people do all kinds of brainstorming with their team, sitting in closed door meetings. Guess what? Ask your clients. If we want to expand our services, you love working with us, what else should we offer? You know how much value you get out of asking your clients? And ask your team members as well. Sometimes leaders in agencies will sit with maybe the partner or maybe the creative lead team, but sometimes ask the whole team. Send out an email to everybody. We're looking to expand services. What could we offer? And then somebody will shine and say, you know what? I've taken this course at the side, which is social media marketing. I think we could start offering content creation or whatever it is. And guess what? You try it and you see what the market is telling you.
Well, let's pivot into a little bit of company building and culture building, as I know this is one of your real strengths and one of your passions also. So when you started the company, when you started the agency, was it just you or was it a small group? And did you always know that you wanted to grow this to many, many people?
So we started 18 years ago, was my partner and myself, the two of us. I'm obviously more the entrepreneur. My partner is more the technician, as Michael Gerber calls it. And I was constantly looking at what the market is telling me. But very early on, I said, I'm not being the expert over here, meaning to say, I'm not going to be the graphic designer. Let me hire. And as I started to hire, I started to building those services. Now, all of the services I mentioned came with needs of our clients and also the right timing, as we said. Now, early on, I also saw that, and I use this example very many times, which is there is something that every business owner has to know what is important to you as a business leader. And now, if something is important, you have to be able to articulate it because as you bring in more people, they have to know what's important to Meny or what's important to Wolf as my partner. Because if not, very easily, especially in the creative space, you start to become uncomfortable in your own skin. You start to be uncomfortable in your own company. So that's where purpose, core values come into play, our ethos, as we call it, because you want to be able to say, those are the things non-negotiable. If you're coming into our home, those are the things we all have in common and non-negotiable.
Now, let's talk about these core values. And I've never talked to anybody about this on the show. But I'm a huge believer in this. Our company has core values. I think a lot of companies might have done the initial good thinking and good work and tap into the whole team and collaboratively create these values. I think it's important to collaboratively do it with them, don't do it to them. How do you make those values a living document where they are a constant touchstone of the way that we interact with each other, the way that we treat clients, the way that we handle mistakes, the way that we handle problems. How do you keep that list of core values front and center in the day-to-day running of the business?
Great question. So there's many ways. Obviously, I'll share a couple of them. First of all, I would like to share with you the following, which is the mistake a lot of companies do is core values is a checkbox. Do we have it? Oh, yes, I think our marketing company put it on a website. Guess what? That's not core values. That might be nice wording and some stuff that your marketing team put together for you. That's fine. Core values is basically ingrained in the culture, which means this is how we operate. It's important to the leaders. This is how we hold each other accountable. Now, as just tactical piece of advice, how is this actually ingrained? It starts from the interviewing process. This is our booklet sitting on my desk every single day. And when I interview a candidate, before we speak anything else, I want to share with you our core values. You could see on a candidate, is this person lighting up and saying, oh, finally, there's a company with purpose and has core values? Or the person is smirking and saying, you know what? I just want a paycheck. I just want my money. Like, don't be busy with all the things. So that's the first step. The second step is you actually train that person when they come in. What does this mean? So let's say we have a process and new and hire will get one core value a week where besides writing what the core value is, I'll explain to them why it's important to us and how does it actually play a role in your day-to-day operation. Third is you as a leader have to make sure every single time you just use those words. So let's say one of our core values is true courage, where it's easier to not to speak up and you speak up. You got to have the true courage. Now, when I give feedback for an employee, I could just give feedback. I start a conversation saying, in light of true courage, I want to be open with you and tell you this and this and this. Or somebody says, we got this hard deadline. We can't do it. It's not possible. I say, one of our core values is take the I'm out of impossible. That's where we shine. Or we got this creative challenge. One of our core values, creative thinkers. Or one of our core values is tangible results. Attention to detail. Where's the attention to detail? You planned out something, but you didn't think it through. So you actually have to use it. Or sometimes we'll do this exercise and we don't do it often because we don't want people to know about it, just spontaneously. In our huddle, we'll ask, by the way, what's our core value number 3? The person which actually says it, here's $100. Why do we do it? Because now the whole company sees that this is important. It's not just a piece of paper. And culture in general is something that I love speaking about. And if people listen to my podcast, Let's Talk Business, they hear almost every leader that I interview, I speak about this. Because Google or any of these large companies has done a disservice because there's a misconception what good culture is. It's not ping pong tables and babysitting service. A good culture is a healthy culture. It's a culture of I want to grow, a culture of excellence. I want to do good work. I want to be happy while I work. I want to be able to have great relationships with the people I work with. And that's the job of a leader, to not only make promises to potential employees, to be able to bring it down to 6, 7, 8 core values and make this the guiding principles how you want to operate.
I love this so much for so many reasons. And by the way, for folks that are listening and say, well, where are the values? Where do I go? If you go to PTX Group, ptexgroup.com/ethos, because they're not just values, they're ethos. Ethos number 1, ethos number 6, ethos number 7. What a great episode. Wowza. Tell you what, if you want to ramp up your revenue as an expert who speaks professionally, you should really check out our free online training at doitmarketing.com/webinar. You mentioned something in passing that I think is also a brilliant strategy, and we do this at our company. And again, never talked about this on the show, so I'm so glad we're having this talk. You mentioned about the huddle. Now, I first heard about this morning huddle from the Ritz-Carlton, right? The Ritz-Carlton hotel company, every property, every morning, they get together, whatever that shift crew happens to start their day. Of course, they're working 24 hours a day. The beginning of every shift, they get together for a 15-minute huddle, which is a way to connect, a way to share the vision, a way to reinforce behavior, a way to share successes and celebrations and gratitude. What's your morning huddle formula? I'm assuming it's in the morning. It might not be, but what's your huddle? How does it work? And how has it helped you build the company?
Let's talk why huddle. As the company is growing, everybody's in different meetings, different projects, different services, different clients, and all of a sudden there's disconnection. So we created this huddle. Obviously, yes, the Ritz Carlton. We have, I think, I heard it from Brian Scudamore from 1-800 Got Junk. There's a video on YouTube how they do the huddle so people could watch it. And we do it Monday mornings for 15 minutes, 10 o'clock sharp in the morning. And it's very, very easy. It's basically positive vibe. Anybody that has something to share positive, let's start there. And then projects completed, projects in the pipeline, any actionable steps. Maybe there is something going on. We're going to an event. So this is just housekeeping, simple housekeeping. And then we have something called high five that we call out an employee that did something special. Now, people always ask me when I speak about huddle, so you give that person a gift, a gift card? No. We're just acknowledging publicly for somebody that did something out of the ordinary. And guess what? Almost every week, people will come over to me during the week. By the way, you have something for next week's high five? I think this team member needs it. And that's about it, 50 minutes. Now, what we did start to do, because we're not waiting everybody to join and not everybody could join, and we're relatively a small company, we do it's called the huddle recap, where we send out an email to the whole company, everything we discussed. So let's say we discussed the project and people say, I would love to see it. What is it? So like there's an internal newsletter where it goes out at the same time. Also a way to if people weren't there, they should know who got the recognition as a high five. So that's what we do as a huddle. And then there is, you mentioning that's more company wide. And then we have something called stand-ups, which is more like the small teams. They will have like a everyday stand up or every second day, depending on the schedule, just standing up. That means to say they'll not a sit down meeting. It doesn't have to take 10, 15 minutes, just a quick one. Let's get on the same page. What are you working on? What I'm working on? Any questions, anything? And then everybody goes on to do their work.
And the stand ups are just within a given department.
Correct.
They're not an all hands meeting.
Correct.
Did you try different variations of the huddle? Like, did you try it 3 times a week, 5 days a week, and then just landed on once a week, or it was always a once a week thing?
We did it once a week. So it used to be Monday mornings at 10. At one point, we shifted to bi-weekly Tuesdays because the teams felt they want to have the Monday mornings for themselves, like every team. And then it lost the vibe because if it's every second Tuesday, is it this Tuesday, is next Tuesday, or we skipped the Tuesday? And guess what? If it's consistently weekly and it's Monday morning, it starts your week regardless. So we shifted that back to Monday mornings, 15 minutes.
And you feel that once a week is enough?
Yeah. Again, that's why we have the stand-ups to complement it. But what happens if it's more than once a week? You're going to start getting people not attending it, which loses the whole value.
Right. Wow, very exciting. Well, I want to just wrap up on this concept of the culture and the ethos and the values. Where did these values come from? So there's 7 of them. They're funny, they're charming, they're actionable, they make you think, they make you smile. So beautiful job on those.
Thank you.
How did those come to be? Did you crowdsource? Did you survey? How did the team contribute to them?
Sure. So I'll mix between how it came about ourselves and also if somebody listening to this, if they want to develop it for themselves, what will be actionable steps? So at the core, it needs to come from the leadership, meaning to say, you're the visionary of your company, you started it, it's your baby, you have certain things that are very important to you. So that's the first thing, meaning to say, some of the core values is so important to you. If you close this business, start something else, you are going to adopt it and move on with those same core values. That's a very important thing to know. So that's the first step. The second thing is you want to involve your team. So what we have done at one point is brought in multiple team members, made an exercise that everybody has to write down a couple of them. And then we started consolidating. And because a lot of people will say the same thing in different wording. Then we would say, well, we're limiting this to 7. Something has to go, something has to stay. And then we voted almost on it. So for companies looking to do that, that's the great start. But guess what? If you have great clients, you're going to ask your clients, I know you were doing business for 5 years. What is really, if you have to describe who we are or what sets us apart, what are the characteristics? And they'll tell you, We love the personality or the loyalty or the partners, not vendors. You invested in my project, whatever it is. So that will also contribute to that. Now, another thing which people don't realize, a great, great benefit of doing core values, which is if there's something you want to work towards, let's say you don't have open, honest communication. If you want to work towards being a better company and having open, honest conversation, put it on an ethos, put it as core values, and that's going to force you and your team to be better at it.
Yeah, that's really, really great that there's some aspirational values that you say we're not there yet, but this is important that we get there.
Yeah, but you can't fool yourself. You have to be able to live by it the same way that we spoke before, and you have to have your team hold you accountable for it. I'll give you a typical example that we have almost on a daily basis. I'm not involved in creative projects at this time. I'm working on the business. That's my job. I'm working on the business. My team is working in the business as far as delivering work for the clients. Sometimes I'll just, for inspiration, when I need a break, I'll just go into the creative space and I see this logo inspiration happening and I'll start giving my opinions. You know what my team member will say? Many, in light of true courage, you weren't at the kickoff meeting, you weren't at the creative brief. We have it. If there's an issue, we'll come back to you. And I have to have discipline to say, you're right. Thank you for reminding me, and walk away.
I tell my team some days, my job is to stay out of your way and bring you coffee.
Oh, that's good.
My job. It's like, are you comfortable? You need a sweater? Can I get you a cup of tea? Great. I'm now going to let you do your work that I hired you to do.
Very good. Very good. Especially with today's day and age, you got to give people autonomy. If they're good at it, just let them be great at it.
So smart. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to ask you two final questions here as we wrap up. The final question is, how do people get connected and stay connected to more Meny Hoffman brilliance? But even before we get there, if people were to take one central idea from our entire far-ranging conversation today about marketing, branding, scaling, building culture, building a great team, what do you hope that one central takeaway idea might be?
So if we're talking about potentially somebody looking at their marketing in general, let's say, and they want to perfect their marketing, I would say is don't get stressed. I heard about this new shiny object. Figure out what objectives are you trying to solve and figure out what is the best way of solving that. If it's cold calling, even if it's not so exciting, it's not an ad I'm seeing in the paper or it's not something I'm seeing on social media, whatever it is. But if marketing is a solution, then be committed to it. And do it the right way, follow through to the finish line. Don't start a campaign, stop a campaign, test, and so on and so forth. So figure out objectively what you want to achieve and do that accordingly. And that's if you're a client of an agency or if you're an agency owner yourself. Figure out the objective and solve that objective, whatever way you want to solve it.
Love that. Absolutely. All right. How do people get connected and stay connected? We can give them websites, podcasts, all kinds of links, and then that's going to be available right under this episode. As you're listening, pop over to thespeakingshow.com and all of Meny's links will be waiting for you. Where can we send people?
3 ways. First of all, you could go to ptxgroup.com and basically join our mailing list. If you join our mailing list, I send out bi-weekly. It's called Let's Talk Business, which is articles and tips and advice. No pitch, just information. Second of all is that you could basically subscribe to my podcast, Let's Talk Business. Search for it. We interview a lot of successful people that have built actual companies and then thought leaders in different spaces. And we call it No Nonsense Advice. So listen to that podcast. Third, I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's Meny with an E, Meny Hoffman. Search me on LinkedIn, connect to me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm there almost on a daily basis putting out content.
Meny Hoffman, such a pleasure. You are a rock star. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Speaking Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on iTunes. Subscribe. Tell a friend. Go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thespeakingshow.com. See you next time.